Chapter 1. New Britain Phenom. Baltimore to call up hurler Steve Dalkowski. Associated Press, August 31st, 1957. Diamond number 1 at Walnut Hill Park was nothing special to look at. A baseball field atop a broad hill in a city park. Dirt infield, no fence. On an average day, anybody might walk by without giving it a second glance. But this was not an average day. Cars jammed the streets in every direction. Early arrivals were already parked at the curb, on the grass, or wedged bumper guard to tail fin along Grand Street going downhill toward the east. Several of the cars had out-of-state plates, though they would have stood out even without them. Flashy, expensive Cadillacs, Imperials, and Packards in a blue-collar town defined more by Plymouths, Fords, and Studebakers. It was the second game of the season and one of the first pleasant days of the year. Warm sun, blue skies, and temperatures in the 70s signaled that the long, snowy New England winter had finally given way to spring. Fans knew they had to arrive 2 hours before game time to get a seat. The crowd filled the bleachers to overflowing and stood along the baselines. A lot of them were students at the high schools whose teams faced each other on the field. Their families were there, too, as were other townspeople. Then there were the out-of-towners with their fancy cars, conspicuous by their quiet, intense concentration on the game, and, on an April day in Connecticut, by their deep suntans. The crowd came expecting an incredible baseball game, and they were not disappointed. The thrilling show that they witnessed took the form of an unforgettable pitching performance, courtesy of an unassuming high school senior who was on his way to becoming the fastest-throwing pitcher in baseball history. 500 people didn't show up for high school sports in the middle of a weekday afternoon unless there was the prospect of something spectacular happening. There was, and it did. The boys in the home team dugout at Diamond number 1 had grown up together. They were neighbors in the nearby apartments and housing projects. Their fathers worked side by side in the scores of tool factories that gave New Britain, Connecticut, the nickname Hardware City. Blue-collar men who made a decent living with their hands in these prosperous years after World War II. Some of their mothers worked in the factories, too, while others stayed home to keep house and look after the children as their own mothers had done. These boys loved baseball. In 1950s America, everybody loved baseball. During the summer, they played for one of the industrial leagues in town, where teams such as the Fuller Brush Crew Cuts were sponsored by local businesses. After the school year started, they played for the Golden Hurricanes of New Britain High, and this season the whole town was talking about exactly one player. He was on the mound for his first start of the season. Steve Dalkowski was a 17-year-old senior who at first didn't seem to stand out from the rest of his teammates. He stood 5 feet 11 inches and weighed 170 pounds. He was trim and athletic, with a square-shaped face, deep-set eyes, and medium brown hair. He looked like any healthy young man from a middle-class Polish family who played baseball in the spring and football in the fall. The difference, what all those fans were there to see, began when he delivered the ball to home plate. With a smooth, seemingly effortless lower body motion, he separated his hands and loaded his throwing shoulder toward the shortstop position. As his right hip moved toward the plate, his lead foot began to cut the distance between him and the hitter. As his lead foot hit the ground, his lead hip opened up and released the loaded throwing shoulder. His throwing arm came forward with the speed of a snake striking its prey. The left arm took a short inside root near his left ear, absolutely perpendicular to the ground. Then Steve's arm came straight over the top. He released the ball out over his landing leg, finishing his throw with a distinctive flick of the wrist.